Thank you. Good evening, especially to Ajahn Brahm, who's just flown in from the cat city, Kuching, Malaysia, after his teaching tour there. And good evening to the two Sangha members right in front here. Good evening to all the special guests, and especially those who have traveled from a long way to Singapore. And we do have some special guests from the interreligious organization. I think they may be running a bit late, as we can see people are waiting there for them to arrive. We have Catholics, Baha'i, and a Sikh coming tonight, I think. A special welcome to all of you to this public talk by Ajahn Brahm. Shh. Thank you. Ajahn Brahm is no stranger to most of you. For those of you who are here for the first time listening to him, I'll give you a brief introduction on who he is. He was born in London, and after graduating from Cambridge University in theoretical physics, he taught for a year in high school, and then traveled to Thailand to be a monk at the age of 23. This year he's 60, so he's been a monk for 37 years. And I think some of you are even younger than 37. So he's been a monk for a long time, practicing meditation, learning from a great master called Ajahn Chah in northeast of Thailand, where he had to eat boiled frogs and food that's not exactly what we consider appetizing. Some of his teachers included mosquitoes, because he shared with us that one of the greatest irritants I think all of us will agree with is mosquitoes. We kind of wonder why they exist, but they do. And mosquitoes will go for Western meal, which is all the white ajahns. So he used them as a teacher in practicing compassion for them, which I think many of us would agree is going to be really difficult. So that's how deep the meditation had to go in order for you to be able to sit there still and just let the mosquitoes suck your blood out of you. And after coming out of meditation, not feeling any itch. In Australia, he also spent 6 months in silent solitude retreat, all on his own in a kuti far away from all his other monks. And for 6 months, he only had kangaroos to accompany him. So he's indeed a practitioner of what he has written, what he has preached in terms of meditation, and also the Dhamma that he shares with us. Having been working with Ajahn Brahm for many of us for many years, we know that he really does put what he says into practice. So please put your hands together to join me to welcome Ajahn Brahm, our spiritual patron.
So I was just checking, the title for the talk tonight is Stillness, the Medicine for the Mind. So she just told me a minute ago. I knew it was something about stillness, or something about still. But when I go to Australia and I talk about still, they think about that place where you make whiskey. But this is nothing to do with that. This is all about a mind which becomes very, very still. Because one of the reasons why people have so much trouble and problems in life is we don't know how to keep still. One person said to me that this was actually John Updike. He was an author, a British author. He said the secret of a happy marriage is that when you're wrong, admit it. When you're right, shut up and be still. But can you be still? No, you have to say that you're right. Too often, if you'd only been still and did nothing, you'd have been a much happier husband and a much happier wife. So the talk today is about stillness and how it's such an important thing which we need to develop from time to time. Now I'm going to begin with a very, very simple demonstration. And some of you have seen this before. But even though you've seen it before, I bet you haven't done it yet. And when I just come back from Kuching, and the reason I went to Kuching was that just over a year ago, I was invited to give the keynote address at the World Computer Conference. And I don't know anything about computers. So I thought, this is so weird, I accept. And they really liked the talk so much. And the president of the World Computer Conference, and I think his secretary or something, is the chief judge of Sarawak and Sabah. So he said, you better come to Kuching, otherwise he'll issue an international arrest warrant for me. He's a chief judge, he can do things like that. So I went over there, but at that conference, this was one of the demonstrations which I taught, and they liked it so much. It was put in the Australian newspaper, which is a national newspaper for the whole of Australia. And from there, it's now in the Australian Stock Exchange site. Advice for people who are playing on the stock market. But I was very disappointed. They never acknowledged where it came from. It was from me. Because if they acknowledged it came from me, being the stock market, I could have charged them. But they got it for free. But never mind. We always like just to give things out for free. And this is the simile. It's about stillness, a medicine for the mind. Are you all very busy? Do you really work hard? Do you work harder than me? No, you don't know how hard I work. I think sometimes Angie talks about my responsibilities and duties. So number one, I'm the abbot of a big monastery, over 20 monks, and many people training to become monks, over 100 acres of land and buildings to look after. And I'm the main teacher of the Jhana Grove Retreat Centre just over the road, another 140 acres of places to stay and places to meditate. And those of you who were there recently, saw me. I don't just teach there. I do maintenance work and put on the roof of the teacher's cottage. I work there as well. And we have this little nuns' monastery, Dharmasala. It's only a small place, 583 acres. And I have to help with them as well. And we have our big city centre, our Buddhist Society of Western Australia, which has got 2,000 or 3,000 members, and I'm supposed to be there for those guys. And you've got you guys as well, which I'm supposed to look after. And what's it? I'm supposed to be the director. I think I was sacked from the director of the Brahm Education Centre or something, moved up to be a member. I don't understand it. Angie gives me the forms, I just sign them. And I am the spiritual advisor of the Buddhist Society of Victoria and the spiritual advisor of the Buddhist Society of South Australia, Victoria. And, I'm started the president of the Australian Sangha Association. So I've got lots and lots of business to do. But do I look stressed out? No, la. And there's a reason why. Because I know how to be still and rest and get the energies coming back again. So this is a simile on the Australian Stock Exchange site. You should actually put it on the Singapore Stock Exchange site too. Keep up with modern times. It's a simile of how heavy is the cup of water. Now recently I was in London giving a talk at Imperial College. Imperial College is a really, really great, well-known university college, teaching basically technology, science. So when I started this simile, so I held up my cup of water and said, how heavy is the cup? And someone said 420.2 grams. That's the trouble when you go and talk to scientists. They don't get the message. Said, look, it's not how heavy this is in grams or ounces. It's how heavy it feels. And if I keep holding this cup for 1 minute, my arm starts to ache. After 5 minutes, I'm in pain. After 15 minutes, I'm in agony and a very dumb monk. So what should I do when it starts getting too heavy? You put it down, you let it go. Just for 5 or 10 minutes, that's all you need. You rest your poor arm. And after 5 or 10 minutes, you pick up the cup, it feels much lighter. That's how you deal with stress in life. It does not matter how heavy your cup is. You don't have an aching arm as long as from time to time you put it down, you let it go. It does not matter how much business responsibilities, duties, work you have in your life. As long as from time to time you let it down and become still. Because it's all right putting a cup down, that's easy. But stopping all your thinking and being still in the mind, that's really difficult. That's why we come here and teach you guys how to sit down and relax. I'm going to teach you how to be lazy. A lot of people don't know how to be lazy. And they think when they go home on the weekend, they've got an afternoon off, they go and watch the TV, they read a book. That's not being lazy. Your brain is still doing lots of work. To really be lazy, you're going to sit down there and don't even think. So lazy, you're not even thinking. So lazy, you're perfectly still. Now actually, that's not really what laziness means. That's meditation. That's incredibly powerful. And when you become still, you're not thinking about the past or the future. Then you really get re-energized. And that is the way I do lots and lots of work. Because I've been training in this for so many years. I know how to be still. And it's such a beautiful thing to learn. It is what makes Buddhism a great religion, because we invented meditation. We discovered it, or the Buddha did. The only problem was the Buddha forgot to take out a patent. So now everyone can do it. Who cares? I don't care. It's the Christians, Buddhists, Muslims, whoever does it, it's really good for you. Because that stillness, first of all, gives your brain some rest. And if it rests, it means afterwards, when you pick up your job, your duties, when I pick up my cup, yeah, it actually feels light. It's exactly the same burden, but because you've rested and your energy has come back, it feels lighter. So you don't feel that ache and pain of stress in your life. And when you learn how to be still like that, you can rest. It means many of the problems of your life vanish. You don't get angry at people or grumpy at them. You all know that most anger comes because you're really tired. You're just at your wit's end. Your wife says one more thing and you're primed to explode. And that's really nasty when you do explode. Really, it's not your wife's fault. It's not really your fault. It's the stress of modern life. We're tired, frustrated, and when one more obstacle comes in, we just explode. And if we're not really angry, we're just grumpy because we're so tired. We've just got no energy, no joy in life, no happiness. So stillness really is a great medicine for your life. So much so that I always like quoting the French philosopher and mathematician Louis Pascal. He lived in the 17th century sometime. And in those days, you were a mathematician, but you were also a philosopher. Basically, that people learn everything. And if you're smart at one thing, you're smart at other thing. And he once said, all the troubles of mankind. That was in the 17th century. You had to say mankind. But he also meant womankind. You can't get away with this, you women. Womankind and mankind. All the troubles come from not knowing how to sit still. And that was a brilliant saying. They come from not knowing how to sit still. Rest, relax, energize your mind so you don't get so angry at others. So how do you actually relax and become still? It is actually meditation. And for all of you people who have done some meditation before, you may actually see this in my new book. For many years, I have been waging a campaign to stop people describing meditation as concentration. It's not concentration. That's the wrong word. It gives people the wrong idea. Because for me, concentration was something I had to do in school. When my teacher said, concentrate! Oh, I hated those teachers. Concentrate! And it was unpleasant. It was forceful. And the other meaning of concentration, which I got from my youth, and many of my age would also remember this, was concentration camps. And for many people, they don't go on meditation retreats because, my God, we're doing concentration. It must be a concentration camp. Where you get tortured, where there's big watchtowers, on the meditation center, making sure no one can escape, making sure you have to get up in the morning and you have to sit still, back straight. That is not meditation. And for many years, I've been calling it stillness. Now, the word samadhi in Pali, in Sanskrit, does not mean concentration. That was a bad translation, which the first English scholars made. It does not mean concentration. And if you think meditation means concentration, you'll never find any joy, peace, or depth. It means stillness. And I got this myself, just from my experience of meditation, my studies of Pali and Sanskrit. But then last winter time over in Perth, that's July to October, we had a couple of Chinese girls staying with us. One was a professor from MIT in finance, and the other one was her best friend. We're both Chinese scholars. And one of the girls said, "Wonderful, Ajahn Brahm, you got it right." Because in the Chinese Agamas, which are the equivalent to the Pali Pitaka, they've always, for, maybe 1,500, 1,600 years, they have translated samadhi with the two characters. Now this is going to test me, I've been practicing, probably get it really terribly wrong, in Chinese, si and guan. Is that right? No, you didn't understand a word of what I said. But I tried. Still and looking on. Si, or si, still. Okay, well anyway, English means still. And guan, that's like in Kuan Yin, looking on. Guan. And what's the first one? Shi. That's where we get the English word shh from. So anyway, there you go. They said I had got it right. It does mean still and mindful. Now, when I understood that, it's actually true from the Agamas, from the Chinese versions of the Buddha's teachings. That makes a whole idea of meditation and stillness much more clear. How can you be still? To be still, you have to let go of all of the things which makes you move. And so, two of those things I call the past and the future. Now it's amazing how much time we waste thinking about what happened to us in the past. And so recently, at a psychology conference in Sydney, I developed a new technique for people to be able to let go of the painful experiences of the past. And all those psychologists that were very happy, and now they're practicing. So the Ajahn Brahmavamso method for letting go of all the pain, the anger, the guilt, the bad feelings of the past. First of all, you have to acknowledge it, bring it up. You have to face it first of all. If you deny it or pretend it didn't happen, that's no start to getting beyond all the pain and difficulties of your past. So you have to bring it up first of all. And the best way of bringing it up is to write it down. Write it down clearly, in detail, because as you're writing it down, you're remembering it, you're facing it, you're acknowledging it. But my particular addition to this old psychological technique is the type of paper you write it down on. Because all that terrible, bad, stinky stuff from the past, the best type of paper to write it down on is called toilet paper. That's where all the shitty stuff of life belongs. So you write it down on a piece of toilet paper. Clear, precise. And because you write it down on toilet paper, there is a psychological association that this is stuff which stinks, which is dirty, which I've got to get out of me, which I have to get rid of. You don't keep, the brown stuff on the top of toilet paper, do you? I don't know, do you recycle your toilet paper? No, I know that actually in Singapore here they said one of the companies that were cutting costs, so they put a sign in their toilets making sure that to save money and to save costs that all employees use both sides of the toilet paper. Then you don't use so much, do you? That's a good idea. But anyhow, so put it down on the toilet paper. Write it down very clearly, first of all. And once it's all written down very clearly and associated with something which is not nice and pleasant, then we have to do the letting go. Acknowledging, associating with something which is not worth keeping, and then letting it go. So where does toilet paper belong? In the toilet, in the bowl. So you complete the ceremony by taking all that writing of all that terrible stuff in the past you've done, you put it in the toilet bowl, and you look at it down there, and you press the button. Flash! And it all goes down the pipes. And with it, all of your guilt, anger, bad feelings of the past. It actually works. And it's also blocked many toilets in Perth. Because it's amazing how much stuff people have to write on that toilet paper. But you can see how it works because you're associating that with the paper you write on as something negative, dirty, not very nice. You're writing it down, you're acknowledging it, and you're doing an appropriate ceremony, something physical, which helps you let go. Then the physical affects the emotional, the mental, and the letting go becomes much easier. So any of you who've got some problems, things which have happened to you in your life, dumped by your girlfriend, your husband's had a mistress, you've lost your job, all your money in the stock market has gone. Whatever it is, which is terrible things have happened to you, write it on the toilet paper and put it in the toilet and flush it away. You'll be surprised. It's a simple method, it's amusing, and because it's amusing, that's why you remember it. And it works. You let things go so you don't have to keep thinking about it. And the other thing which stops us being still, We're always so worried about what's going to happen next, that even when we've got nothing to do, we're still worrying about 2012. Is the end of the world going to happen or not? And you're absolutely crazy. Look, I guarantee that the world is not going to end in 2012. Even though I don't own the property of my monastery, I will put my monastery up and say, look, if the world ends in 2012, I'll sell my monastery and give it to you. That's how confident I am. But instead of actually, worrying about it, I always like to say, why do people like to worry? Why do they watch these movies or these soap operas where they're wondering, who is going to marry whom next week? Why do you do that? You've got enough worries already at your work. Why do people always like listening to ghost stories? We like to worry, don't we? And there's a new ghost story. So I'm just adding this in, just a little bit of entertainment. This happened in Perth during our recent rains retreat. A fresh, new ghost story. Sri Lankan woman. Her brother had cancer, a type of blood cancer. And in Colombo, Sri Lanka, yes, there are some good doctors, but even they recognize that in Singapore you've got much better doctors, much better treatment. You should be very proud of yourselves that you've got a great health system here. So they sent their brother here to Singapore for treatment. But even with the great doctors and state-of-the-art treatment, sometimes it doesn't work. So he was dying. He only had a few days to live. By this time he was paralyzed. But she knew he was dying, and so she called me in Perth and begged me, please, I know you're on retreat, but please can you talk to my brother? He's dying. He won't last much longer. And of course I will always say yes to that. And if you give me a call asking for predictions about who's going to win the football, or, no, if it's serious stuff, I'll always come to your help. But I did call him 2 evenings in a row. And it was very difficult to talk, or for him to talk with me, because his energy was almost zero. So you had to listen very carefully, and his words were very slow, with long pauses in between. He was very close to death. But I did give him some good advice on what to expect, when you die, and the things to think about at that last few moments. So I talked to him on 2 evenings in a row. And it was very fortunate, because the 3rd evening I never could talk to him, because in the 3rd evening he died. I never knew that, because he just the call never came through. But the 4th evening his sister called me to tell me that he died the night before. But not just to tell me he died the night before, but to tell me a very strange thing. He died the night before, but that very morning she received an email from him. An email which was sent about 12 hours after he had died. He'd been paralyzed before. There's no way he could have used some gadget to write the email, to send it some other day. It was an email sent from a ghost. Just saying the word, thank you. And she said, it's absolutely true. He sent that email after he had died. And that answered a question which I was always thinking about. No one ever told me, because I'm not a high-tech person. I never understood what Gmail meant. Now I know. Gmail means ghost mail. But that's true. They actually got a message from beyond the grave. So, if any of your relations dies, just check the email the next day. You may get a message. Who knows? It does happen. But that actually is a true story. It actually happened. So, the reason I told that is because we love worrying about ghosts. We love worrying about things. Why do we do that? And the reason is because we don't value stillness and silence. Every time there's some peace, we want to fill it in. Every time there's an empty space, we want to put something there. When these adventurers, when they climb mountains, when they get to the summit, what do? Put a flag there. They go to this beautiful moon, they put a flag there. They can't leave anything alone. And in your house, you may have this beautiful room. And what do? You think, maybe a flower pot will go good over there. You have a beautiful empty wall. I put a picture on that wall. Why can't you leave that empty? On our monastery in Perth, we have a shrine. And it was beautifully empty, just a Buddha statue, that's all. And all these people would come, they'd put a flower pot here, a candlestick there, some other sort of stuff somewhere else, and they filled it all up. Look, the whole idea was actually to have it simple and empty. But a lot of times we're afraid of simplicity. We're afraid of emptiness. See if you can maintain an empty room in your house. It's impossible, even if you've got a big mansion. The reason is because we always want to put things somewhere. That is why your house is so cluttered, so hard to clean. Sometimes you can't even walk from one end to the other without bumping into so many things. I once took some ordinary women, they were from a housewives group, had a little club in the afternoon, where the husbands were at work, so they went to go and see strange things, like the monks. And I took them around, and I showed them a monk's hut, where monks actually live. And I remember these women, 40, 50-year-old Australian women, they looked inside, and their comment when they came out was this, I'd always remember this, they said, I wish my house was this small and empty, and I get all my housework done for the week in half an hour. And I really feel sorry for you and your maids, how hard they have to work, because you have such a big house. How many rooms can you stay in one time? Why do you have such a big house for? It's much easier when it's simple, and also when it's empty. But we don't like stillness, and that is the problem. We are actually afraid of silence. And that's why we keep filling up the empty parts of our life with doing things, with worrying, with planning, with remembering, even though we don't need to. And because of that, we never know how wonderful stillness is. Now I'm going to give you a demonstration. Again, this is an old meditation teacher's trick. But many of you are coming for the first time here. And it's amazing just how effective this is to show what stillness feels like. Because as I'm speaking, I want you also to be aware of the reaction to my words inside of you. Just be aware of what's happening inside your mind. Because as I'm speaking, you'll begin to notice something a bit strange. There are many pauses between my words. In those spaces between my words, what was happening in your mind? You weren't thinking. You were still. You were silent. There it was again. Isn't that beautiful? Just to give people a taste of silence shows what you're missing in your life. And if you can stay in that silence long enough not to be afraid of it, wow, you become so relaxed, so peaceful, so energized, and another strange thing happens, so wise and happy. Second meditation story. Again, I've talked about this in my book, and I talk about this every time I teach meditation, especially in retreats. But this simile is so perfect to tell people what stillness does for you that I can't really pass it by in this talk. It's a simile of the monastery where I live in Australia. 28 years I've been in Australia, 9 years over in Perth, so 9 years in Thailand, 28 over in Australia. And this morning when I came to the airport, they had a cake for me. They didn't realize how accurate that birthday cake was, because tomorrow is my 37th year as a monk. It's my birthday, my monk birthday. But when I first went to Australia, we didn't have any monastery. We had to search for land. And where can we find some land for a monastery? Where's a suitable place? And a suitable place for a monastery has to be on top of a hill or a mountain. The reason is because it is the tradition all over the world that holy men live on top of mountains. It's true. So you've got to find a monastery on top of a mountain. There is one exception. The one person, the one holy man who doesn't live in a mountain, who lives in the swamp, and that is Yoda, Star Wars. He lives in swamp. Remember Star Wars, Yoda in the swamp? But that's Hollywood, that's not real life. Most holy men, tradition, live on top. So we built our monastery on top of a mountain. Now, for the first 7 years I lived in that monastery in Perth, I'd always travel up and down the hill in a car. And there was one morning in spring, it was a beautifully sunny morning. I had plenty of time, and I asked my driver, please let me out at the bottom. I want to walk up the hill. Even here today, it's very difficult for me to have exercise. Even I came here today, and you guys were in the lift. I said, I want to walk up the stairs. And some of you, Andy, said, no, you mustn't do that. But I'm very stubborn. I walked up the stairs. So I teach by example. Not lazy. So I decided to walk up that hill. So I got out of the car, the driver went up, and I see him later on. And as I started walking up the hill in the monastery where I lived, I could not recognize my surroundings. That hill looked totally different to anything I could remember. And that was shocking for me. This was the place where I lived. 7 years I've been up and down that hill 3 or 4 times a week. And now I was walking up that hill, and it was strange. It was foreign. It was like a different place. And that was so disturbing to me that I actually stopped and stood still and looked at that hillside. And it's no exaggeration, the hillside changed again. And I saw things just standing there, staring at the hillside, which I'd never noticed before. Beautiful little flowers, between the pieces of grass. Rocks, beautiful rocks, very textured rocks, which again I never noticed. And even the trees They had what's called tessellated bark. It's not just smooth bark. It has all these cracks and fissures in it. And just in the sunshine, it looked exquisitely beautiful. And I just stared at it in awe and wondering why I'd never noticed this ever before. So much beauty, so much detail. Totally different to anything I could remember. I had to leave and walk up that hill because it was lunchtime, and because monks only eat once a day in the morning, lunch is very important. So I started walking up the hill. But I started contemplating what is going on. And being a scientist before, trained in Cambridge, I realized what was going on. Just basic science, but it opened up a huge area of understanding the importance of stillness in your life. When you are looking through the window of a car in which you're traveling, and you look through the window, the light which hits the back of your eye forms an image. It's a chemical reaction on your retina. But because you're traveling in a moving car, another image comes up pretty quickly afterwards, and then another one, then another one, then another one. So fast do those images come when you're looking through the window of a car. Not one of them fully forms. It's just a fraction of the detail is formed on the eye, and the colours aren't rich. They're sort of washed out. The chemical reaction doesn't have time to form a proper, rich, deep colour. But when I walked, the light had more time to form its image on the back of my eye. So I actually saw more detail. And these were things I'd missed before. I hadn't seen. They were always there. But because I was looking through a fast-moving vehicle, I never noticed them. But when I stopped perfectly still, that was when the light hit the back of the eye and formed the full 100% perfect image. Not only did you see so much more detail, but also what you saw, the colours, which is almost like fluorescent. Not just green, but just really rich green, and so many different shades of green, and browns and different shades of, and even on the rocks you could see the different shades of grey on the granite outcrops. It was absolutely beautiful. You could see all the detail, the wonder and beauty of nature, only because I was still enough to notice it. And I realized why a lot of people miss out so much on life. Because we go too fast. It's not just the hearing, it's not the seeing, the hearing, the feeling, the knowing. We rush our senses with so much information, not one image fully forms. It's not deep enough. So you will actually find, if you learn how to be still, life becomes very beautiful. The people you have been living with for so many years, you think you know. Just like I thought I knew that hillside where I lived. You find you don't know. But you don't need to be scared. If you stop and be still, the people you live with are more beautiful than you'd ever thought. The woman you fell in love with and married, your husband who's been looking after you, your kids, your parents, their beauty takes on another level. And it's joyful. Not only that, but you get deeper understanding of what's all out there. Your knowledge, your insight, your wisdom fully forms. You know what life is. Because you're slow enough to get all the information. That's why stillness is a path to wisdom and to happiness. So that's why the stillness has been part of our Buddhist tradition for such a long time. And even in Christian tradition, in the Psalms, in the Bible, the Old Testament, Be still and know that thou art God. That's one of those sayings which I don't mind teaching to everybody, especially to Buddhists. Be still and know this incredibly powerful part of you and understand what life is. But the best part of it, the part which I never expected, I was always taught as a Buddhist, you be still and you get incredible insights. I never expected the beauty part of it. To understand when you're really still, you can see beauty in everything. And look, quite frankly, one of my secrets of being a popular monk, when each one of you comes up to me to sign the books or just to talk or take a photo, I smile. And I don't really put that on, because I see incredible beauty in each one of you. I'm being honest. You give me so much joy, because I can't see your faults. I'm slow enough to see that each one of you is an incredibly beautiful being. And I wish I could share what I can see in you so you could see that in yourself. And then all this depression, all this anger, all this feeling you're not worth anything, all this feeling that you must keep running around. What are you running around from? What are you running away from? A year or two ago, I was busy. I'm sometimes busy. You see me running around sometimes. And I was running around our city centre carrying some papers to the photocopy or to the internet or something. And I just passed one of my old friends. He used to be a monk, and he's a nice old friend. And he asked me, he said, how are you? And I made the comment, which is very common in Western countries, also probably here in Singapore. I said, I'm getting there. Have you ever said that word, I'm getting there? And then he stopped me and said, where are you getting to? And I thought, oh my goodness, he's caught me out. Where are you getting to? Every time you think you're getting there, where is this there you're trying to get to? You never reach there, do you? You're always getting somewhere, but you're never being here. And that's the meaning of most people's lives. Always going places, but never reaching them. As soon as you get to one goal, you're going somewhere else. Always on the move, never still. Which is why a lot of people don't know life themselves and the beauty and the joy of life. Why that they do get stressed out and they get sick and upset and angry. While Louis Pascal, all the troubles of man come from knowing not how to sit still. Brilliant. Could have been a Buddha by saying things like that. But when you are still, not only you see beautiful beauty, but you can rest. Sometimes people think that I'm wise. I know that sometimes when they hear my jokes, they call me wise guy. But where does wisdom come from? Because a lot of times, look, you can read those books, and there's some very powerful books written. And you can read all of that, and you can tell somebody else exactly, say, what I wrote, what the Buddha wrote, what any wise being wrote. But is that real wisdom? When you come here, hopefully that when you hear what I say, you may have read it somewhere, but actually not quite the same. It's where it comes from. And where my wisdom comes from is from stillness. Just make the mind very, very calm and still. And it's amazing just what can come up. And I trust that stillness as a source of real wisdom, even in big problems in your life. Now, each one of us from time to time comes up with a decision we have to make, which is a very tough decision, and really important. Change your life, change other people's lives. And how do you make those decisions? There's too many of us think. And when you keep thinking about the problem, do you ever get close to a solution? It just makes it more difficult, more confused. The way to solve the problems in your life is to sit still. Let go of the past and the future, all your thinking. Shh. Be calm. Don't think of the problem. And when you're really still, how many times does a solution pop up? Many people know this, with the old trouble when you're trying to think of somebody's name. You're trying to think of somebody's name, you can't think of it. Think, and of course there's no way it can come up. You make your mind silent and still and peaceful, it comes up. Very easy. Now this is a great thing to teach your children, because they have to do exams at school. And sometimes when they have the exam paper in front of them, it's not that they get nervous. That's one way of looking at it. It's because they keep thinking too much. They try and force an answer out, and it never comes. Or if it does come, it's a wrong answer. So the way to do that, if you can teach your kids how to be still, just to stop thinking for a while. Make your mind nice and empty and peaceful. An answer will come up, and I guarantee it's more likely to be the correct one. There's a Sri Lankan girl I knew in Melbourne. She came to my talks. She went to, I think it was Melbourne University. She studied medicine. She got the ducks, the top mark in the whole university and medical school. And she said she didn't even go to any lectures, because she had trained in meditation when she was a young girl in Sri Lanka. And she was really good at it. She said all she'd do would read the medical textbook with a quiet mind. It was so still and empty, like a sponge which was dry. It soaked everything up. If you got a wet sponge, it can't soak much up. Her sponge was perfectly dry. By that I mean her mind was perfectly empty and still. So when actually she read the book, everything was absorbed. And when she did the examination or the assignment she had to do from time to time, she looked at the question, still with a quiet mind, she just wrote things down. First thing which came up into her head, that's what she wrote down. And she got top marks. And all the other kids in the school were so jealous of her. She never did the homework late at night. She wasn't studying the books night after night after night. She had a wonderful time at university, getting the best marks with the minimum effort. Isn't that a nice deal, kids? And you can do it here, so you can learn this. But not only that, just in your life as well, at work. You have to perform at work. And the demands on you are really, really high. To succeed in our modern world is very tough. But if you learn a little bit of stillness, it is the medicine which you were always looking for. You've got a decision to make in your business. Should we go sign this contract or not? Should we get this supplier or another supplier? How should we go forward? If you know how to be still and listen, it's like the universe is always telling you, we're too busy to stop and see. We're always going in a car, moving too fast, so we miss too much. That is the problem. And it's not that hard to be still. I've already mentioned we're afraid sometimes of stillness, which is one of our problems. But once you taste stillness, it's so delicious. Haven't you heard the saying, silence is golden? Heard that saying? Well, apparently the price of gold has gone up over the last 2 years. So silence is even more valuable than when I started meditating. And it was pretty good then. So the silence is so beautiful and wonderful. And once you can learn how to be silent, you can turn it on whenever you want. And it's very beautiful to be able to do that. There's one of these little extra tricks, which I've taught you before. It's brilliant how to solve conflict. You may be having an argument with somebody. I know how these arguments get very passionate and people are shouting at you. Try the 5-second silence trick. They've shouted at you, maybe your husband, your wife, your boss, or somebody, shouting at you. And when they stop speaking, what do you normally do? Shout back. Defend yourself. That's missing this great opportunity. So they've been scolding you, shouting at you. Stop. When they finish speaking, be silent. About 5 seconds. Give them a time to reflect on what they've just said and how they've said it. And if you do that to people, you'll find many times, giving them the 5 or 10 second silence, they'd realize just how badly they've spoken, how uncivilized, uncouth has been their behavior. You give them a chance to reflect on what they've just done. And they realize that's not the way to speak to another human being. But if you, as soon as they speak, you start speaking, they don't have a chance at all. They don't have a chance to see what's been going on. So the 5 second silence is a beautiful way. But also, if we don't know how to be silent and sit still, we overreact to the problems in life. Again, someone shouts at us and we need to defend ourselves. It makes matters worse. Someone hurts us, I've got to hurt them back. That is not the way. So what is the way? For those of you who remember that first book which I wrote, The Opening the Door of Your Heart, it's about 25 languages it's been translated into now, roughly, maybe more, maybe less. I'm trying to get Opening the Door of Your Heart number 2 out, but I keep being invited to Kuching and Singapore and Penang. I don't have a chance. But anyway, it's on its way. In that first book, there was a very powerful story about stillness and its effect in your life. And again, these are stories from real life, not theories, but real life stories which you can apply to so many situations and trouble spots of your life. It was that story of my friend. When I was a school teacher, he was about to retire. He was the head of English, and he came along and told me one day of his experience during the Second World War. He had to volunteer as a young man, as everybody did, during wartime. And he found himself sent to Burma with the British Army, fighting the Japanese soldiers. Now, he wasn't a violent man. He was just an ordinary guy who had to do the thing for his country, even though he didn't know what he was doing or why. But one day, he said, he was out with a patrol of maybe 6 or 7 other soldiers. Just an ordinary patrol. But unfortunately, that day, they stumbled into a huge number of Japanese troops. And what happened was they became completely surrounded and vastly outnumbered. That was a terrible situation to be in. This is war. And the enemy totally surrounding you, vastly outnumbered. What would you do? You never know who is going to be a hero. Sometimes, the ones that are really tough in the training, who speak like sort of, what's his name, Rambo or Rocky. People who speak like that, when it's really going to be real combat, they get afraid. They become the cowards. And these little scrawny guys, you think is never going to do anything, they become the heroes. And he was one of those scrawny guys who decided to become a hero. He told his captain, I'm going to fight my way out. Who knows? I might get through. Chances are, I'll die. But at least I'd have served my country and taken some of the enemy with me into death. You come with me, we'll all fight our way out. Even though it's suicide. That's the manly thing to do. But the captain, the officer in command, said no. He countermanded that suggestion. He gave another order. He said, no, we will not try and fight our way out. We will all sit down and have a cup of tea. It was the British Army after all. And he thought this was the craziest piece of advice he'd ever heard in his whole life. Now think of it, you're at war, surrounded by an enemy, about to die. How can anyone think of having a cup of tea? But in the army, especially at war, an order is an order. You just have no choice, you have to do it. And he thought this was the maddest, craziest thing he's ever done in his life, which was about to end soon. So he started making a cup of tea with all the other soldiers. Before they finished that tea, Scout came back and told them, the enemy has moved. There's a way through. Put your things away quickly. We can crawl through the hole and escape. Which they did. That's why he could tell me the story. And he said he owed his life to the wisdom of that captain. Surrounded, outnumbered, nothing you could do. So sit down and have a cup of tea. Because things always change. You know, in Buddhism we call this anicca, impermanence. Life is always in flux, it's always moving. Wait for the chance. Sooner or later there will be a gap in the enemy forces. And if you haven't killed yourself fighting a battle you can't win, then you can take that opportunity and escape. And he said not just that time, but many times he'd owed his life to that advice. He said once he was in financial ruin. It's like the enemy, the auditors, the tax people were circling him just like the enemy, and there was no way out. So what did he do? Sit down, have a cup of tea. Wait. And things always change, economies change. And he could find a way out. Another time, you know, like many people, had cancer, terminal. He was being encircled by death with no way out. He relaxed. And there was actually a treatment which got him in remission. He knew how to be still when there was nothing to do. And that is one of the great, not tricks, skills which we should learn. When there's nothing to do, do nothing. When there's something to do, give it everything you've got. That's one of the sayings which motivates my life. If there's nothing to do, do nothing. Isn't that logical? When there's something to do, give it everything you've got. We all know how to give it everything we've got in life, because that's what we've been trained to do, especially here in Singapore. You're really energetic, motivated. When you do something, you can really do it. What you don't know how to do is when there's nothing to do, sit still and have a cup of tea. Cup of coffee, a durian, you know, some noodles, so whatever it is, you know, you like. If you learn how to do that, you'll be a very effective person in this world. Learn how to be still when there's nothing to do. Rest, relax, wait for your opportunities, and then you'll be able to take them. So when we learn about the power of stillness, it is a medicine which gets rid of all of our stress, which allows us to be really effective and successful in life, which teaches us how to learn and how to make decisions, which means we don't get really stressed out in life. You don't have much time to rest, do you? So when it is time to rest, you've really got to rest efficiently. And again, I don't get much time to rest. When it's my time to rest, I know how to rest really powerfully, very quickly, so I can perform at the highest level. You know, after I come out of my meditation. I've learned the power of stillness. See if you can learn that power too. And then, you see, I don't need to do anything. All these beautiful things come to me. Thank you for listening. I think that was a hint. I'd better be still. Okay, Q&A? Oh, 10 minutes meditation. Okay. We want to be 10 minutes of meditation. So this is how to meditate. You're holding some orange juice. you put it down. Okay, so we're going to do 10 minutes of meditation, the boss says. Okay, so as you're sitting, you don't need to sort of sit cross-legged in full lotus on broken glass, as I keep on saying. Just close your eyes. It's only 10 minutes, it's very easy. If you don't feel like it, you can keep your eyes open and watch other people. And start to, first of all, close your eyes and just experience your body. A little bit of kindness to your body, first of all. Because if you need to scratch something, scratch it. If you want to move the body, move it. It takes a minute or so when your eyes are closed for you to be able to experience the sensations in your body more fully. It's as if that once you close your eyes, there's more space in your brain to experience physical sensations. So you are more sensitive. So about now, I got my full sensitivity to my body. If you want to move, adjust, please do so now. Get your body comfortable. Now remember, this is a time for stillness, for rest. It's not the time for doing anything. And I already mentioned one of the first things we have to do is to be free from all the memories of the past and all the plans and fears of the future. So there's a little exercise I developed, which you may follow now. With your eyes closed, use your imagination to imagine yourself holding two heavy shopping bags or suitcases, whichever you prefer. The shopping bag in your left hand, the shopping bag in your right hand. And they're very heavy. And you've been holding them for such a long time. You imagine your arms ache and your shoulders hurt. Because you've been carrying this heavy weight in your left and right hand too long. Now you look with your imagination, the shopping bag in your left hand. On the outside are written the four letters P-A-S-T, past. That bag contains all your memories, good and bad, of your past, which you've been carrying around so long, it actually makes your mind ache, your brain hurt. It's stress. And you look in your imagination at the bag in your right hand, and on the outside you see the letters F-U-T-U-R-E, your future. All the hopes and the fears, the anxieties and the plans for your future, which again we hold far too long, so long that our mind aches and our brain hurts. The stress of worry. And now you focus on that bag in the left hand, which represents your past. Imagine just how heavy it feels and how much stress is given to your arm. So it aches. And then you imagine lowering that bag representing your past, your history, to the floor. Slowly. When it meets the ground, all the weight disappears. And you uncurl your fingers from the handle. You move your arm away from the bag, which is on the floor, until your left arm is hanging loosely by your side, resting, recuperating. You've let go of the past. Imagine now the bag in your right hand, representing your future, worries, anxieties, plans, and even dreams. How heavy that is to carry 24 hours of the day. imagine lowering that bag to the ground. Again, slowly, don't rush it. And when it meets the floor, the weight, the burden vanishes. It disappears. You open up your fist so your fingers slide away from the handle and your right arm comes up to your side, resting, recuperating. You've let go of holding and carrying your future. And you imagine yourself standing between those two heavy bags. You're not carrying them now, you've put them down. And you're standing between this beautiful, still place between them, called the present moment, just now. Those bags will be there for you afterwards. But for the next few minutes, do not touch them or pick them up. You're free to be still. Now, how does it feel to be in the present moment? The mind is not moving so much. It's like me walking up the hillside, but I haven't stopped yet. Because the mind is still moving with thought. So, listen to my words, especially notice the space between my words. In those gaps, your mind is silent. What does that feel like? There is nothing to do. So just enjoy. The silence. The stillness. No need to disturb the emptiness with words. No words allowed. Before we finish, how does that feel? What's it like to be still? Now, please open your eyes to end this short meditation. Very nice. Okay, there's a Believe it or not, that was about a 10-minute meditation.
Thank you, Ajahn
It
Brahm.
goes so fast.
On behalf of everyone here, I'm just going to pose a few questions to Ajahn Brahm, mainly related to meditation, because these questions do come up quite frequently. One of which is, how do you stop the thinking in the mind? Because when you sit down and meditate, most of the time thoughts will keep arising.
How to stop thinking is take away the value of thinking and give it to silence. When you market silence as more valuable than thinking, then silence has a chance. So that's what I've been doing here, saying that even insight, understanding, problem solving, seeing deeply, you'll get more success with silence than you do with thinking. See if you can just be silent and know. Number two, there was a great story from Lao Tzu that he used to go on a walk every evening with his disciple, but he had a golden rule: you can't speak when you went on a walk with a great Taoist master. But one evening, a young disciple went for a walk for the first time with his master, and they reached a ridge in the mountains at sunset. And the student couldn't help himself but say, "Wow, what a beautiful sunset." He broke the rule. The master turned round. When they got back to the monastery, he said, "That young man is no longer allowed to walk with me any evening." And that his friends said, "Why are you being so strict? What's wrong with saying what a beautiful sunset?" And that is when this wonderful wise master said, "When my student said what a beautiful sunset, he was not watching the sunset anymore. He was only watching the words. He was watching the words, not the sunset." If you understand that, you understand the power of silence. Many of us live in the world of words and thoughts and labels. We don't know the thing they're pointing to, what the label actually is. Do you know your wife? Or just know the label, that's wife? That's not a small thing. Take away all the labels and you see things in that woman you've been living with which you've never noticed before. In silence you see more. So what that does is you take the value away from the words and see where those words are pointing to. Giving value to silence above thinking. And then you start to enjoy the silence more and more. You're not afraid of it. But one of the great techniques to use, now if you're a Buddhist, you can use these mantras. For example, I've been teaching people recently, I'm a Theravada monk, not a Vajrayana monk, but one of the most well-known mantras in the whole Buddhist world is the Om Mani Padme Hum mantra. So if you want to stop thinking, recite that mantra to yourself. You can use any mantra you like. You can maybe get some words from the Holy Quran if you wish, and recite those to yourself. But the trick is to put spaces between the words. So I'm going to use the Om Mani Padme Hum mantra. You close your eyes, you recite yourself Om Mani Padme Hum. Om. You put spaces between the words. If you're thinking a lot, close up those spaces. Om, Mani, Padme, Hum. Because that will crowd out the thinking. As you settle down and become more calm and still, then you can extend the spaces between those words. Om, Mani. When you really get still, you can have huge spaces. Om, Mani. So that technique works because you can change it according to your state of mind. You're very, very restless, close those gaps up. And as you settle down, extend them, open them up, and you find you can be silent. That was what the Buddha called substitution. From thinking about all sorts of stuff to thinking about one or two simple things and taking that little mantra and opening it up until the spaces between the words are much bigger than the words themselves. And then you can be still. It's not a hard thing to do, and it's very effective, so try it.
Ajahn, another popular question is, some people get really stressed trying to do meditation because it's yet another activity to achieve something. And people put timers on, like 10 minutes, and before 10 minutes up, they open their eyes and say, it's only been 3 minutes. And they find it even more stressful to meditate.
Okay. First of all, Angie, can you come over here, please? Now, this actually doesn't work. This is water here, is it? This might work much better. Okay, good. Yeah. Now I'm going to hold this cup of water perfectly still. Now, usually when you do a demonstration on TV, you have to have a beautiful assistant. I better be careful what I'm going to say next, otherwise I might get hit. But anyway, so my assistant today, I'm going to hold it still. Can you please tell me when it's perfectly still?
It's not still.
Okay, so I'm going to try harder.
Still not still.
I'm going to really try. I'm really concentrating. No? Now that's how many people meditate. They try so hard to hold their mind still. That's when you get fed up with meditation. You do it the wrong way. It's very easy to get this water perfectly still. Assistant, come back, please. Now it's moving, I can see. Can you please tell the audience when it's reasonably perfectly still? Yeah, it's perfectly still. And it's so easy to do. Put things down. Let the past go, let the future go, let all the trying go. Be careful though, because many meditators, they hear this story, I've got to put it down, they put it down. Is it still yet? No, not yet. Yet? No, not yet. Come on, no, still not yet. Stop disturbing the process. Your job is to sit there and let it be. I will now tell you one of the deepest, because I know sometimes that people ask me, can you really give a deep talk? This is deep but very easy to understand. This was from my teacher Ajahn Chah, the first year I was a monk in this monastery. He told this simile which I did not understand, and it has not been put in any book yet. And I really should put it in a book pretty quickly. He said his monastery 37 years ago was a mango orchard. And all those mango trees were planted by the Buddha. Straight away I realized this is weird because, the Buddha didn't plant those mango trees. What's he up to? So it was a simile. And he said every mango tree is dripping with ripe mangoes. Thousands of them on every tree. And he said, you monks these days, you nuns, you lay people, you don't need to climb the tree to get the mango. You don't need to throw a stick up on the branches to get the mango to fall. And certainly you don't need to shake the tree. All you need to do is to hold out your hand and a mango will fall. That was crazy stuff. Because I knew mango trees. If I sat under a mango tree with my hand open, I'd be there for days. If a mango did fall, knowing my luck, it would probably fall on my head, over my hand. What did he mean? Now that was a great simile for one of the great masters of what meditation is. You sit under the Bodhi tree. Sit under wisdom. Sit where you are. Don't shake the tree. Just open up your heart, sit still, and all these incredible states of meditation, insights, wisdom, enlightenment itself will just fall into your palm. If you shake the tree, mangoes never fall. If you sit still, the mind is very peaceful. If you want to be enlightened, that is one of the best similes I've ever heard, coming from my great master. Beautiful, perfect, easy to understand. Shaking the mango tree, mangoes never fall. Open up your heart, sit still, mangoes fall.
Ajahn, especially for new meditators, there are times when they do feel the stillness or some bright colors happen in their minds, and the exclamation is, "Oh, I'm still," or "Oh, the colors," and then poof, it's gone. So what do you do?
Okay. Again, I'm going back to my great teacher, because I can tell you what to do, but it doesn't really help when you give a simile, you really understand what to do. And that was a simile of the still forest pool. Even when I was a young monk, I had the opportunity to leave the monastery, carrying everything I owned on my back, to walk around Thailand, knowing that whatever village I went to in the morning, I'd always get something to eat. Knowing that I could put my mosquito net up anywhere, in a paddy field or in the jungle, and be able to sleep at night. You were just living on the land, free, with no attachments, very few possessions, and no ties to any monastery or any place. It was a time you really did feel like a bird. But you'd always try and find a river, a lake, or at least a well in the early evening or late afternoon, because you'd been walking all day and you were sweating, you needed to bathe. And also you needed water to drink. So you'd find maybe a lake in the jungle or in the forest somewhere. And you'd wash, replenish your water jar and maybe wash a robe or two. And once you're finished, you set up your mosquito net maybe about 10 or 20 meters away from the water's edge. Because you knew that later on in the night the animals will come out to also drink. And sometimes, Ajahn Chah said, he would do all those duties, wash, replenish his water bottle, set up his mosquito net, and sit in the early evening with his eyes open to watch the animals come out and play, just like you see these days on Nature Channel. But in those days, it was very hard to see those animals unless you were a monk who could sit perfectly still. Because if you moved, the animals would know that a human being was watching. And most of the human beings would only go into the jungle as hunters to kill those animals and eat them. So those animals were so frightened of humans. If they knew a human was there, they wouldn't come out, even if they were really thirsty. So Ajahn Chah had to sit perfectly still. So still, the animals couldn't notice him. That's part of the art of disappearing. When you're still, you vanish. Sometimes he was so still, the animals would come out from the jungle, sniff and look around. They wouldn't notice he was there. So they'd come out and play. And, it's so much fun to see the animals playing around. One of my experiences, I wasn't sitting still, but I was in a hut in the north of Thailand. It was by myself, it's really in deep jungle. And there was a knot hole, a little hole in the wood. And I put a bowl of water out for the birds. And after a few days, the birds found that water and they would come every evening. And I'd watch them through the knot hole in the woods. They didn't realize I was watching. And the funny thing which happened, I don't know if this has ever been seen on Nature Channel. This was jungle, wild birds. As soon as they got to realize there's water there, they'd all come. But they would go in a line. They would queue up. You see all these little birds of the different species in line, one after the other. The one in the front, they jump in, you see, they'd wash, flap their wings, get it nice and cool, and wash themselves and drink something, and when they were finished, they'd fly off. Then the next one would go in. I've never seen wild animals organize themselves like that, except in Singapore. But there was always, every evening, there was one bird would come and try and jump the queue. And it was so funny. If one bird jumped the queue, all the other birds would get out of the queue. They'd jump on that bird, really beat him up and chase him away. And once that queue jumper had flown away, then they all got back in their line again. And I was just fascinated to see that. It was just such fun to see the unexpected organization of wild animals of different species. So I enjoyed that too. But Ajahn Chah, we'd only be able to do that if you sat perfectly still. He said sometimes he sat so still that amazing animals would come out of the forest. Animals whose existence he never suspected to be real. Animals which his parents and teachers had never told him that lived in the forest, because they were so rare, few human beings had ever seen them. He had to be perfectly still for those animals to come out. Because if he said, wow, they would hear him. Even a small bit of excitement, they would know a human being was there. And they'd hide for days, not coming out. That's how shy and scared they were. But sometimes he was so still, amazing, beautiful animals would come out. That's how to be still in meditation. Be like a nature watcher. You have to be perfectly still. Any excitement, any control, any doing, all those beautiful experiences will run away again. When I heard that, I knew exactly what to do. I imagined I was Ajahn Chah, sitting in a forest, watching the animals come out. And I knew how to be still in my meditation. And then all these beautiful things started to happen. If I said, wow, or I'm afraid, they'd all run away. You destroy the meditation. That was very helpful. Similes are much more powerful than just dry instructions.
Ajahn Brahm, as you've previously explained, that if you want stillness, or if you want peace, you will not get it, because craving doesn't lead to peace. Could you maybe elaborate on that?
Yep, okay. Because people say, oh, this is a trouble with human beings. Each one of you have done a lot of good in your life. You've succeeded so much in business and life. Even little kids, you've done well in school. Through all the effort which you've made. You know how to do things, but you don't know how to be still and stop and rest. So that's why I like the word stop. Not doing things, but stopping. After stop comes still. After still comes energy. Not frantic energy, but peaceful, still energy. Insight, joy, and all these amazing things come. What we really should be focusing on is not interfering. You have to get out of the way. You have to disappear and let things happen. Just like when I travel on Singapore Airlines. When I travel on Singapore Airlines, I just sit in my seat. I never ask for any food. But after an hour or two, this beautiful hostess comes up and says, Ajahn Brahm, would you like some lunch? I don't order it. It comes to me. And that's exactly how I meditate. I sit there, and all these amazing, meditation attendants come up and say, we're serving jhana now. Do you like first jhana, second or third jhana? Which is your choice? I said, well, I had second last time. I'll have third today, please. And later on in the flight, they come up and say, special offer today on SQ. We have stream winning, once returning, non-returning. Okay, I'll take some of that. And that's actually how it works. It comes to you. Or, I'm telling all the meditation stories now, which is great because I usually tell this on retreats, I don't tell them to you. Or the simile of the donkey. This is one of my famous similes of how to become enlightened. Donkeys are notoriously stubborn. They use a word in English as stubborn as a donkey. If you take a stick out and beat that donkey to try and make it move, it won't move at all. That's how stubborn it is. It can take pain. So if you want the donkey to pull a cart, you don't hit the donkey with the stick, you tie the stick to the donkey's back, to its neck. So the front of the stick is about 2 foot in front of the donkey's head. On the end of the stick, you tie a string. On the end of the string, you tie a carrot. You know, if it's over in Europe. If it's in Malaysia, you tie a durian.
Without the skin.
Without the skin, yeah. So there is a Singapore donkey, and it sees a durian in front. Now, you can beat it as much as it wants, and it won't sort of move, but it sees a durian. Yeah, I like that. And so the donkey moves towards the durian. But because the durian's on the end of a string, which is on the end of the stick tied to the donkey moves, the durian moves. So it doesn't matter how fast that donkey runs, that durian is always 2 foot in front of the donkey's mouth. Doesn't that sound like your life? You almost get it, don't you? Happiness, the promotion, the wealth, the great sort of relationship. You can see it, and it goes away from you. But the Buddhist donkey learned how to catch the durian. One day, it was outside when it listened to one of my talks. This is how they catch the durian. The donkey runs like hell after that durian. Doesn't matter how fast it runs, the durian is always 2 foot in front. But the Buddhist donkey hears the word, stop. He stops. And that durian swings away from the donkey. But he's got faith, he's patient. That's the trouble. You let go for 1 minute, and then you interfere. You know what I said? You put it down. Is it still yet? No, is it still yet? Wait. So that durian goes 4 foot in front of the donkey. It's never been so far away before. But then something amazing happens. The durian starts to swing back. Soon it's 2 foot in front of the donkey's mouth. Trouble you Singaporeans, you've already worked out what's going to happen next. You go too fast. 2 foot in front of the donkey's mouth, and now it's coming at top speed towards the donkey. It's never done that before. All the things you raced for in life and chased now are coming to you. And soon it's right in front of the donkey's mouth, and all the donkey has to do is remember, opening the door of my mouth. And the durian comes in. That's how donkeys catch durian. Remember, you've all been running fast enough in life. All you need to do is stop. When you stop, your mind actually goes more crazy than usual. The carrot, the durian goes further away, but just stop, just wait. And after a little while, the durian or the carrot comes towards you. And that's what happens in life. That's how you get the deep meditations. You're just sitting there, absolutely still, doing nothing, and all these things, they come towards you. So delicious. Now, I'm giving you some really good teachings this evening. So, I've told you many other funny stories, but actually they may be amusing, but that is incredibly deep and profound. That's actually how you become enlightened, how you get many things in life. You've been racing too fast. Stop. And all the things you've been chasing now come towards you.
Thank you, Ajahn Brahm, because there's going to be so many people wanting your autographs tonight. And much of the further instructions and help are available in Ajahn Brahm's 2 books on happiness through meditation and the latest one on art of happiness. So this is your opportunity to get them. And today's launch is the art of disappearing, the art of disappearing, how to disappear. And
so if you want your wife to disappear, give her the book. Sorry, I couldn't.
Okay. So before we end, please allow me to make some announcements. The Buddhist Fellowship will be greeting you with the new year, with the special New Year's Eve prayers and chanting. So you're all welcome to come. There'll be more information on the website. And also with the new year, there's going to be the new programs for the children. So those of you who've got young children or secondary school children and the youths. There is the Rahula for the young ones, and then the YP, which is called the Young People's Group, as well as the youth group, which is for the 16 and above. So I'd like to just invite our youth leader to come up here and share something on the youth camp.
Take it.
Okay, good evening. My name is Hao, and as some of you know, I'm from Buddhist Fellowship Youth. So today I'm here for two reasons. One is Ajahn Brahm's enlightening talk, and the other to tell and share you guys about our year-end camp. So first, let me ask you, what will you guys be doing on like the 15th or the 18th of December? Now, some of you will say, I'm going to be watching television or maybe playing some computer games. So I put out a challenge to some of you. Why don't you do something productive? Why don't you push your own boundaries? Now I'm pushing my own boundaries here because I have never spoken to a crowd this big, and I'm feeling quite nervous right now. But we got to have the confidence in us, right? So we offer you an opportunity, especially if you're around the age of 15 to 21, or you do know someone that's around that age, to come for the camp. It's in 2 weeks' time. So what can we offer you for this camp? Now, I can't tell you the exact details because that will spoil the fun of it. But I can tell you what we're going to do. We will be practicing stillness and many other things like the Dharma, bonding, teamwork, and gratitude. So we're going to have a Be Amazing race, a Buddhist amazing race. Things which we're going to do with a Buddhist tinge towards it. A campfire on a rooftop, and visiting our neighboring country, Malaysia. So it's going to be part of a camp, so it's going to be really fun-packed and all. And we promise to end with a big bang. And that's a hint on what we're going to do on the final day. So do join us for this 4-day, 3-nights camp. We have 30 forms left. So that shows the popularity of the camp right now. 30 forms left tonight. So tonight is our last push at publicity. You can get your forms over there. Camp, so come and find out more about it. And Ahi Pasiko. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Heng Hao. And Heng Hao is in the Sunday Times today, featured with his dog Bubbles, as they've adopted their dogs has been retired from the force. So I'd like to invite you to be a member if you're not yet a member of the Buddhist Fellowship, or renew your membership because there's special promotions today, getting free CDs as part of your sign-up. There are all the other books available. Shh, hold on, you will have a chance to get the books. And Ajahn Brahm will be remaining on the stage to sign the books. So he's not going anywhere. As part of the book launch, the second book will be at a special price of $20, the first one being $25. And there is a book to commemorate his 60th birthday. Does he look 60? So read his... So now he's nearer to 70 than 40. This book will be quite an amazing revelation because the author or the editor managed to get pictures of him when he was just a little boy, cheeky face boy, and a book and a picture of him in Egypt where he looked like a lion, hair all over, literally all over. So it also describes his life story as well as his journey in the Dhamma. So that book is also available. Do get extra copies if you're planning to be giving any gifts away this year end. There is going to be a course starting from February to April called the Introduction to Buddhism, and it's going to be conducted by our previous Vice President Yap King Guan, who is very good and articulate and clear in his teachings. So do sign up for that. There's more information either on the leaflet on your seat or on the website. He's, by the way, the retired Director of Public Communications at PUB, which I'm sure he's very happily retired because there seem to be so many floods that he would be otherwise having to speak about. During the Christmas weekend, there is an opportunity for you to practice meditation, as there's a meditation retreat, a weekend retreat by Ajahn Sujato, one of Ajahn Brahm's disciples, and Ajahn Chatamalo, another disciple as well, who are both now abbots of their own respective monasteries. He'll be coming to give talks around the New Year period, and I think that there's a poster on your seat. Those of you becoming more interested in meditation, in June, we always have a executive retreat, which we also term as the happiness retreat, and usually in a very comfortable hotel, because we all know that we are a creature of comforts and we want to focus on learning meditation, practicing meditation without suddenly having to get orientated, living in dormitories and hearing people snoring right next to you. So it's a very good introduction. We will be announcing the dates soon. And those of you who've done the softer retreats and would like to go to more serious stuff, like taking 10 days retreat without saying a word, there are retreats at the Jhana Grove Meditation Center in Perth. There is a lady who's lost a credit card, so if you happen to pick her credit card up by mistake or found it, please turn it into one of our volunteers. It's a Citibank credit card. Please do not spend on it, because otherwise you'll be going to Changi for free accommodation. So with that, I'd like to welcome you back on the 29th of December when Ajahn Brahm will be coming through again after conducting some talks over in Penang. And he'll be giving a talk right here again on letting go of the past, embracing the future. Somebody wrote to me and said, how about the present? Well, the present is included. So just come for the present, which is the Dhamma. So with that, I'd like to thank Ajahn Brahm once again for making his trip here. And I'd like to also welcome and thank the two Sangha members, the two bhikkhunis, as well as Ustas from the Harmony Center. Thank them for being here tonight. And I'd like to thank the Buddhist Fellowship and Brahm Center staff who work tirelessly and relentlessly, and all the volunteers who always come forward to help whenever we need all their support. So those of you who would like to purchase the books to be autographed tonight, we will be splitting the tables up to make it more convenient for you, and the signing table will be coming up here. So don't rush, everyone will get an opportunity to get the books and have it signed. So with that, Ajahn Brahm, thank you once again, and may all the merits that you have helped us accumulate through listening to the Dhamma be also dedicated to you for your good health and long life, so that you can continue teaching. Thank you very much. So shall we do it the Buddhist way? We say sadhu 3 times, loud and clear. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you. And since we do have to pay rental for this hall as part of a donation, we would also appreciate the donation as you exit, so that it helps defray the cost of hosting this talk. Thank you, and have a wonderful year-end ahead. Good night.